We are joined by the better looking half of the morning show co-host with Ben Higgins. This, of course, is Stephen Woods with 97.3 The Fan in San Diego. And he has got an incredible, inspiring story in the radio business, how he got to where he is today. And we are going to learn all about it. Yes, Stephen, we are. I'm Bryan Fenley, an anchor at Fox Sports Radio. Stephen, I want to start here. Where would you be in this business without the support of your wife?
Oh man, she's been great for me. She obviously gets the media business. My wife, her father was a longtime staple here in San Diego on the news. Unfortunately, passed away of brain cancer right before I met her. We've been together about 7 years, but she gets it. She gets the media. She gets kind of she knows kind of how to handle it. She really does, and you know she's as good with our fan base, I think, as maybe even better than we are sometimes. And there's a story that I've told before. I could tell it again, but there was a time in the business where I had been working really hard to get back full time in radio. Kind of I kind of made a bad decision. I was working with a guy. He got fired, and in kind of a moment of, I don't know, solidarity, but it was also more of like, I knew I was going to catch a lot of grief if I stayed, and they wanted me to stay, but I quit thinking, oh, well, everybody loves me, I'll find a job ASAP. And it just wasn't the case, man. And so I went to a company and I worked really, really hard in there. And it's kind of where I got my first shot at doing sports radio, but they really had me doing everything. And I was there 14 months, part-time, grinding it out. And I'll just never forget this day, man. I finally got a call from my agent, and he said, hey, they want to make you an offer. It's been long enough where they've kind of put you through it. And I remember him calling me, and I had a pen and paper. And I think my son Bo had just been born. I mean, he was like a baby. And I'm writing down the terms, and it was horrid. It was horrible. It was like mortifyingly embarrassing. And I remembered I was so mad and frustrated, and I threw the pad across the room. I mean, I had tears in my eyes. I was like, what am I going to do now? And she was in the kitchen, kind of like waiting, like, oh my God, here it comes. And then when the actual numbers and things came through, it was terrible. But I remember, I mean, she literally was like, if you quit, they win. So don't quit.
Mm-hmm.
Figure it out. And I kind of looked inside right then and said, well, I got a kid now, and this is not about me and what I want and need. Luckily things worked out, but I mean, how many wives or girlfriends or husbands or significant others would have said, okay, you had a great run. Now go do what you have to do because you have a family now. And I did. And luckily for me, man, it all came to change very, very soon after that phone call. But it was dicey. So obviously I couldn't do it without her. She has great things to say about you. I love what she said the other day. She goes, I'm so glad that you're doing this with Bryan. She goes, no one cares about it more than him and you. She said, you two are the two people that care about radio, sports radio, broadcasting. She says, more than anybody I've ever known.
Aww.
And I said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how I feel. Like, I love my partner dearly, Ben Higgins. But I feel like if we got canned tomorrow, he'd be like, oh, it's fine, I'm on TV.
He's got multiple.
Yeah. I'll be devastated. I'm with you, man. I love it. I love the medium. I love the interaction. I've been doing it basically in mornings in San Diego for about 11 years, a bunch of different kinds of radio, but still the same feeling at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. when you turn the mic on and you go live. That's never changed. Never one day. Honestly, I can say never one day. I mean, I've been nervous about shows and been like, God, I just don't know how we're going to get through it. Sure. But I've never been like, oh God, I don't want to be here. Never one time. And that's a rare thing these days.
And I would think that because of some of the hard times you went through, that leads itself to you never taking one day, one show for granted. In a way, and I kind of look at myself like this as well, is that you and I, in a way, just dealing with that grind and dealing with the ups and downs, it's kind of like we're pound puppies because
Yeah.
nothing for our paths was given to us or made easy. And so
No.
when we do get someplace like a home that loves us in a way, we never want to let go of that. And we
Yeah.
are forever grateful for that. So the marriage with Ben Higgins on the radio end has become a blossoming entity. I really enjoy the chemistry the both of you guys have. Why did Ben stop reading off the wraps?
So we came up with this segment. I came up with this segment. We had just kind of started, and it was the funniest thing. We were at our first station, which was the Mighty 1090. And it was hard. I mean, it was really my first full-time sports gig. I'd done morning radio. I've done DJ, playing records and music radio. But they decided to give me a shot, and they paired me up with Ben, who's a hardcore sports guy. I love sports. I mean, I like sports. I love radio. That's kind of how I roll. And they thought it would be a good marriage. Luckily, it has been. But there was a story about Robert Kraft, and he went to bail. He went to bail Meek Mill out of jail and pick him up in his plane. And I remember Ben reading the story, and Ben goes, what is a Meek Mill? And the light bulb just went bing. It went bing in my head, and I go, you don't know Meek Mill? And we're the same age, by the way.
Yeah.
And he goes, no. I go, all right. I go, well, I have an idea. Because he is the most broadcastery, like, hi, I'm Ben Higgins. And I thought, let's get some hard, and he doesn't curse ever. Like, he never curses ever. It's not a shtick on the air. The worst word I've ever heard him say is like, dang it. I'm not kidding.
He said Philip Rivers.
Yeah, 100%. And so I thought, let's have Ben read raps. Let's get him the most hardcore, uncomfortable, dirtiest, sex-filled songs, and he'll just put his head down and he'll just read the lyrics on the air. So we tried it and it slayed. And so we did it the next week and it slayed. And then we did it for a long, long time. And we stopped it. Was it this year? Maybe early in the year, maybe last year. It had just kind of run its course. We did it. I found myself on Fridays not get. I mean, you run out of funny lyrics after a while, and so we just felt like it really ran its course. But we bring it back on special occasions, and so we've brought it back a couple of times, and it's slayed. So it was just one of those things where it's like, it's one of the things I'm most proud about, Brian, of our show is that so many radio shows, and especially in sports radio, man, they take the punt. They punt too easy. They say, well, I mean, would it be interesting to talk to a beat writer that covers Colorado State? Sure. I mean, no, but it'll fill 15 minutes. So let's book that. Right? It happens all the time. I mean, big name shows do it, right? And I kind of I'm like the kind of the last line of defense on my show. And I'm sure it drives my producer and Ben crazy because I constantly want them to fight for the segment.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to have so-and-so on tomorrow. Okay, why? Well, I mean, the Lakers, no one cares about the Lakers. We're in San Diego. They don't care. Well, I mean, they've got no, they don't care. Sell me. Like, well, I want to talk about, this trade or whatever. Okay, fine. Now I'm sold. But like, if you believe in it, you should fight for it. And every segment is precious, and every segment should be looked at not as a punt, And so sometimes my producer will say, hey, what do you guys think about getting so and so on tomorrow? And I'll just send the gif of the punter just punting. And then if he believes in it, he'll try to sell me. And if he doesn't believe in it, he'll go, oh, okay, it was just an idea. And I go, that's a punt. Let's not punt. Now, look, every show, when you have 4 hours to fill and you live in San Diego and there's one team, you're going to have some not so great segments. But I want you to at least try. I want you to at least fight for it a little bit. And I'm very proud. So, a segment like Ben Reed's Raps, that we had a lot of fun with, once it became more of a chore to try to find one and have we done this one, and it felt right to let it go when it was kind of the perfect time.
Yeah, it's something will come in to maybe
Yeah. Oh yeah.
replace that. That will be just as fun and excuse me, and just as creative. And like you said, I think that you're spot on, because a lot of time hosts will bring on guests and it's like a crutch, because you can't fill a
So
segment
many.
yourself. Let me just rely on this person and his thoughts, and I don't have to do as much work. We're joined by Stephen Woods with 97.3 The Fan in San Diego. I'm Bryan Fenley, an anchor at FSR. What do you hate more than the Dodgers?
Ooh, God, that's a good question. God, they really get on my nerves. I mean, then the players really get on my nerves, but man, the fans are like, they're out of control. Now, I grew up, so my backstory is, it's kind of deep actually. My birth father wasn't around for about the first 10 years of my life. So my mom meets this guy, and he loves me, my brother, and we were calling him dad before they got married, like before they were even engaged. So I'm sure that was a little bit. I mean, he's a 30-year-old guy at the time, and he's got two kids calling him dad, and it's wild. And I didn't have any real male influences that were into sports when I was a kid. And he happened to be a Yankee fan. And we're talking 1985. The Yankees were awful in 1985, horrid. But he liked the Yankees, so I liked the Yankees. And I've told the story. If he had been a Reds fan, I would have been a Reds fan. If he was a Royals fan, I would have been a Royals fan. If he was a Padres fan, I would have started a Padres fan. Whatever he liked, I liked, honestly. And because that was my guy, and he adopted my brother and I. So he's our dad. It says so on our birth certificate, and he's always been our dad. But that was for me a real huge moment, because his dad went to Manhattan College. My dad grew up in Detroit, hated the Tigers. His dad was a Yankee fan, so he kind of passed it down to me. So strangely enough, I was living in Dallas, Texas at the time. My dad gets transferred. We end up on the East Coast, and we're living in Connecticut, and we're right in the heart of Red Sox Nation. And as a Yankee fan, that was not very fun when I was a kid. But we were close enough to the stadium where we could go to games and stuff all the time. And and plus they were on TV. They were always on TV. So I was watching Don Mattingly and Willie Randolph, and those were my first guys. Mattingly, Randolph. On down the line, Dave Righetti, Dave Winfield. Dave Winfield's the first big league ball player I ever met. I still have the picture. So my dad and I had this really tight bond over baseball and the Yankees. So when I moved here 11 years ago, well, again, story is the same. If I had gotten a job in Kansas City radio, I'd be a huge Royals fan right now. If I had gotten a job since it's where I live, I'm in. I'm going to watch. I watch every game. I don't miss a game. Well, then you start meeting Padre fans, and you start hearing the stories of woe and the sorrow and the near misses. And of course, the Yankees rolled them in '98. So, and I remember being in college and being like, man, that wasn't even a challenge. Like, they just dominated. It was such a good team in '98. But I really started to fall in love with the San Diego Padres being here. Petco Park, greatest place in the world. And man, next thing you know, I'm like a full bore Padre fan. And it was fun. It was, for a while, it was kind of this fun dichotomy of like, well, the team that spends a ton of money and I have huge expectations for, then this kind of up and coming team that doesn't spend a lot of money, but they got a really good farm system. It was weird. And different leagues. So I always felt like, oh no, that's my AL team. That's my NL team. So then you start really, when the Padres start just getting an inkling of being good, you start to hear the Dodger fans, and they chirp, 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 chirp. And so, my comeback to those guys is like in 1988, I was 13 years old. And I remember Gibby, the whole thing. And that was the last, full season World Series that team won. Bro, for all the money, all the great players that have come through that city, all the expectations. You get one little 60-game championship, and
Exactly.
you're that arrogant. You're that well. We win a lot of divisions, bro. So did the Bills. So did the Braves. The Braves got their one, and that was
Hmm.
it. And I'm sure we've talked to Greg Maddux and John Smoltz and Tom Glavine, and they've all to a man been like, we should have had six. We should have had six. Like, it sucks that we only won one. So Dodger fans, I think you got a great team. I know you got a great team. Um, but you got to win more than one little 60-game COVID championship, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're so arrogant. They're so arrogant for not having accomplished very much.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that they won't admit this outright, but they really are insecure when they see the amount of work and the amount of money that San Diego is putting into their team.
Oh
They
yeah,
can say that they don't really feel bothered by that, but they really do
they
internally.
do.
And I'm sure that you noticed that as well. I wanted to touch on something, Stephen, because you were talking about how early on in your life, your biological father wasn't there. Now you being a father to two kids, what has that been like in being able to fulfill what you didn't get as a child yourself and be able to instill that in your own children?
Yeah, it's funny. I still get a lot of grief from listeners to being, growing up a Yankee fan, and it's fine. It's weird. I'm a season ticket holder now here for the Padres. I'm here. I'm in San Diego now. I'm never leaving. Like, whether I'm on the radio or not. This is the day I landed here. I was like, finally, I can stop wandering. And I'm raising both of my kids as Padre fans. They're not Yankee fans. That was my thing with my dad. So I'd say 98% of my energy is now focused on the Padres and being a fan. And you know, I found it really weird in the 60-game season when I wasn't going to check out what Garrett Cole was doing, but I was like, bro, Chris Paddock's got to figure this out. I found myself kind of pulling away because of my two boys. That's why, because of my two boys, and really just the one at the time. But my second one's 4 months old. But they're our team. That's my thing with them. They will be raised Padre fans. They will get to see Manny and Tatis, and that's who they'll grow up on, and that's important to me. So to be able to just, I mean, what's the old adage? Showing up is 80% of it. So just being there every day. I have a really good schedule in that I'm able to see my baby boy every. I'm go home and he's there. Hannah will go out and do real estate stuff, and I'm there with him, and then I pick up Bo every day at 4. They're everything to me, man. And you know, they're just, it's such a challenge. It's so challenging being a dad. It's the most challenging thing. I could do 4 hours of radio standing on my head. It's hard some days to just figure out how to get your kid to eat a meal, and it can be frustrating, and you feel like an awful parent, most of the time. It's very weird. Rarely do you say, no, I've got this thing licked. I've got it licked. Because as soon as you think you got it licked, one starts throwing up, the other one starts screaming. You're like, what happened? I just had this figured out. So, man, they're everything to me. So it all goes back to them, being able to raise them in their hometown with a good hometown team that they can be proud of.
To what extremes have you gone to try to get one of your kids to eat?
Oh, dude, let's see. So I've tried the smoothie route, right? So, not to be gross, but one of my like my oldest kid, he's just like, he won't poop for like 3 days. And you're
Yeah.
like, that can't be healthy. It can't be healthy. And he's like, I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat this vegetable. Don't want to eat this fruit. So I'm like, hey, I'm like putting laxative in a smoothie, little kid probiotics or whatever.
Yeah.
Not laxative per se, but I've tried smoothies. We've bribed him. We've poured the little powder. It's like probiotics into his chocolate milk. And then like he's looking and you're like, I'm not stirring anything. Don't look over here, just to get things moving. And it's so concerning. And so I go to the doctor, a few weeks ago with Bo, and he gets flu shot, and she looks at me and she goes, here's what you do. It's kind of old school doctor. It was Hannah's
Oh,
pediatrician,
wow.
my wife. Yeah. So same doctor. She goes, make the dinner, present it. If he doesn't want it, who cares? I'm like, that can't. We're beating ourselves up. She goes, when he's hungry, he'll eat. And I'm like, okay, it's really an old school way of doing it. You can't force it down his throat. You
Yeah.
just can't. And I mean, we pack his lunch every single day. Every single day that lunch comes home uneaten. And I'm like, what do you eat? And how are you getting through the day with like no nutrition, no food? And it's a phase. But you feel like a real awful parent when your kid is. But I'm like, bro, if you're hungry, I'll make you anything you want. You want a steak? You want chicken? You want mashed potato? I'll cook anything you want. Anything, name it. And he's like, popcorn, peanut butter, whatever. You're just like, oh God. So it's so challenging, and you just beat yourself up every single day as a parent. Just like, is he going to eat? Is he going to pass out from hunger? Is his stomach hurt because he hasn't pooped in 2 days because he doesn't eat fruits and vegetables? Like, I'm telling you, you get to the point, Brian, where you go, eat ice cream, eat anything. You eat anything so that I know you have something in your stomach so you're not hungry. Eat anything you want. Eat this ice cream, eat this candy, whatever. Just, I want to make sure you eaten something. There's something in your belly. It's hard, man. It is hard, and he is as tough as nails. So it's a challenge.
Why do you have such a voracious appetite to want to succeed?
It's a great question. Probably my mom, to be honest with you. My mom was a worker. She's a worker. I've always admired her work ethic. Has always worked. My dad's an awesome guy too. But my mom was really just always the kind of head down, drive, plow forward. Things will come, things will go. Uh, Man, I'm a competitor, and I'm not the competitor like, you read stories about like Jeter, or you read stories about like Tony Gwynn. You read stories about guys that were like, they wouldn't let you, like, they got mad if you beat them at checkers. I'm not that guy. You know what I get mad at? I get mad at you if you beat me in radio. That's it. If you go out there and beat me in golf, I'm really not that mad at you. If you strike me out, I used to play a lot of adult baseball. If you strike me out, okay. I mean, you're going to strike out from time to time. I don't like losing. Believe me, I hate losing. But the thing that I'm the best at, if you beat me at that, yeah, then I'm very mad. I'm super competitive in radio, but not to the point where I'm a jerk about it. I just want to win. I like to
Yeah.
win. I want to be. I think wouldn't it stand to reason that every guy that wants to win, or girl that wants to win, aren't we all a little bit insecure? Do we need that, like, oh man, you're the best, you're the best, you're the best? I mean, some guys are happy, right in the middle. Like, no, I mean, I've got a great life. For me, I don't know. Is it hardwired in my brain? I really don't know. I just, like, I want to destroy competition. I want to destroy them. I do. Maybe it's from growing up listening to Howard Stern. Honestly, maybe that's it. Sorry, I got a call jumped in there.
Oh, you're
Screwed
good.
me up. Okay, there we go. I listened to Stern a lot growing up, and he would murder his competition. He would have like fake funerals for competitors, and like, I won't go that far, but maybe that was it too. Like, oh, if I'm going to get in this arena, I want to win. I don't want to be some schleppy show. So I definitely am driven to win. There's no doubt. I probably a bit difficult to work with in that, sometimes you do just want to punt a segment. And I'm like, we're not punting that segment. We got to figure something out. So that's I would say it's probably I'm a bit obstinate, when it comes to things like that.
But that is a personality, and
Yeah.
you take a stand. Somebody might not like it, but you take a stand. And isn't ultimately that what compelling radio is? And
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I think, we try to stay away on our show from we don't disagree much, and people don't care. Like, if you want the undisputed, stuff, that there's an audience for that. There's no question. I mean, those guys make Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, those guys make a lot more money than I do. Ben and I are typically like, what do you think? I don't know. Like, yeah, I can see your point. It's more of kind of how you talk with your buddies, you know? When you go to the bar with your buddies, you're not like, Philip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. No, he is not.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. No, and it's just like, it gets a little old. And I always hated the contrived point
That's the word.
counterpoint.
Yep.
I hate
Contrived
it.
was
It's
the word.
contrived.
Yep.
And you know it. You know it. You can hear it. You can hear that it's contrived. And Ben and I have had some disagreements about stuff. And Manny Machado was one of them. That was one of them. When the Padres were going to sign, you know, the rumor was he may come here. Ben's like, I just don't know if I want him. And I'm like, flipping the tables up, like, why? That's the problem with this town. You got to have guys like that. He is a Hall of Famer. You know, why don't he drag his foot against some other guy's foot? Big effing deal. Like, forget it. And now Ben is always the first to be like, you know what? I was dead wrong on that. And I'll do the same thing. So we don't do that kind of that show. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not afraid to speak my mind. And I'm also not afraid, Brian, to say, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I feel kind of both ways. I'm okay to say, because that's human, right? I hate the strong, the good, hard, so-and-so is going to win this game. Guarantee. For me, I'm like, all right, I've heard it. Mike Francesa. And the guy gets, Mike Francesa, he gets what? 1 out of 40 predictions, right? Like, how interesting is that? That's not interesting to me. If he's 40 for 40, I'll be like, all right, maybe I should start listening to this guy. It's 1 out of every 40. Colin Cowherd, same thing. Like those, I really admire and respect their careers. But like the stuff they say sometimes, I'm like, does anyone check you on this stuff? Because you're kind of always wrong. And it's weird. I'm like, maybe I'm doing it the wrong way. Maybe I'm in the wrong business. But that kind of radio to me is just kind of like, I've heard it before. I want to do something different.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize, and you know this better than anyone, Stephen, is that those that make these grand points, they don't always believe them. It's like
Right.
a brand that they're trying to put out there, which is different than you, because while your take might not be as polarizing, it's who you are, and you're willing to own it. And you're right. I don't think we do enough of that accountability where we say, wait, did you say that? And you're just getting away with that. So I totally agree with you. What does Ben do in this market better than anyone?
Oh man, he is the it's so hard to speak about Ben and what he, like, for me personally, I can tell you, to be able to work with a guy like that every day, who Ben makes me want to be a better guy, like I'm more disciplined and on the radio than he is. Like, I'm there an hour and a half early. He comes in 20 minutes late. I'm more disciplined, and I would say I care more about radio than he does. But Ben, you know what Ben brings every day? Ben brings even keel. Ben leaves emotion at the door, unless he gets really worked up, and it's my favorite to get him all worked up. But he is like he's the greatest partner I've ever had. It's not close. And like, dude, there's nothing I wouldn't do for him. Our chemistry is so random and so weird. It shouldn't make any sense. But the way I talk about our show is like, I love our producer, Paulie. He's like a brother to me. When the show's over, I want to go play golf with them. Like, I want to go to lunch with them. I want to like do dinners, and those are good dudes to hang out with. And we have so much fun off the air, so much fun. And I've worked on enough shows to where you're like, all right, see you later. Like, don't call me this weekend. We're texting all week. We're texting all weekend. But what Ben brings is just, he brings a barometer, a balance. He's a balance, man. I'm up, I'm down. Ben is a balance, and he's so witty and so funny, and no one gives him credit. I'm always painted as the funny one. He's the funny one, dude. He is like legendarily funny. He just doesn't get enough credit for it. So I try to bring it. Like, I try to like put it in the spotlight because he really is. He's got great timing. He throws in too many corny jokes, but that's Ben. That's like unapologetically Ben. And I think you have a show in ours that you do have two hosts that are pretty unapologetically themselves. I mean, really, like Ben's like, I don't care. And I'm like, I care too much. And we admit it. We admit, like, I admit, like, I'm insecure. I need you guys to like me. I admit it. And Ben's like, I really don't care. You don't have to talk to me at all. It's very strange. But we are really unapologetically ourselves every single day. And I think that's why it works.
Do you think being unapologetically yourselves is what makes you guys so endearing to the San Diego radio audience?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think that when they tune in, you can't fake chemistry. You really can't. I mean, you can hear when it's kind of faked and canned, like laughing at every joke, and you know it. Just turn on your local morning show, and you'll hear it. You just kind of hear it when you hear it, you know it. Benny and I, our chemistry, every day he walks in the exact same every morning. Hey, Benny. Hi, Woodsy. And he sits down, and I've usually been breaking his balls for about 15 minutes on the radio, and that gives him his chance to respond. And dude, he's just the best. He really is. And he's just so dry and so like, I think that there are literal factions of our audience that are like, man, I really love Ben. Woods is kind of a clown. And then there are people like, man, Woods, I love you. Ben, bores me. We've heard all of it. And the sum of the parts is much better than, the two of us on if Ben did a show by himself, it would be awful. If I did a show by myself, it would be awful. You put us together and it's PB&J, and we really feel that way. And like, we both kind of know, like, I need that guy. And he's like, I mean, we both could do radio without the other, but we really just don't want to. Like, it wouldn't be as fun.
Who's the better adult league softball player?
Oh, he's terrible. He's a golfer. Ben's a golfer. So I just became a golfer in July. After hating on golf my entire life. I am now like I just came from the driving range. I caught the bug during the pandemic because it was one of the only things you could do.
Sure.
So I went out and I caught the bug, and oh my God, if it's just not my second grade. I mean, it's like I quit playing baseball. I hung them up. I'm too old. I'm 45. I couldn't hit those 18-year-olds anymore. And I just said, I'm done. So I threw all my energy into golf, and I'm like obsessed. And Ben is a great golfer. He's probably an 8 or 9. And I'm like a 20. So I'm catching up, but I love playing with him. I learned from him. We have a whole new dynamic now, things that we can talk about that we're both really passionate about. So it's opened up a lot of stuff on our show. But he is a far superior golfer, but I'll get there because I have more time to practice. He never gets to practice. I'll get him. I will get him.
I can't wait to see that happen when you guys actually get on the course, and you're
yeah.
the one that gets to deliver the humility to him.
The knockout blow. Got your ass. I mean, it will be like he'd have to have his worst day, and my best day is an 87. And I broke 90 twice after only playing about 6 months. Everyone told me that was kind of a big deal. And I haven't done it since. So he'd have to have his worst day, and I'd have to throw up, one of my 87s or 85s. And I think I can get him, but it will happen. It will happen. We're going to play enough, as the years go on that I'll get him at some point, and believe me, I'll celebrate it. And he will be devastated when I beat him.
And you know what? You will never let him forget that day.
Never.
Always remind him of what you did.
Hey, he's already beaten me like 20 times. So like but I will get him. I mean, it's literally a target for me. He has a target on his back. He knows it. I hit it further than him now, but he's much more accurate. And he's such a good putter. It's going to be hard. He's going to have a really, really bad.
Final question. Stephen Woods with us with 97.3 The Fan. I'm Bryan Fenley, an anchor at Fox Sports Radio. You speak about your best day that you've had on the golf course. What's been your best day on the radio?
Oh man, that's an easy one. The day Manny signed here in San Diego.
Okay.
We were at the Mighty 1090, and our show we got some ears. We had some ears. We were still kind of finding our way because it was my first full time. I'd done some fill-in stuff, and I would do like a week here, maybe a couple days here, and I had fun doing it. But I never had to contribute. It wasn't my show. It didn't have my stamp on it. So I just show up, shoot the breeze, and go on with my day. So now I had my name on it, and it was Ben and Woods. And Hannah and I thought about it so much. I would get home from the show, and I was so insecure, man. Because some people liked it, and some people were like, "Who's this guy? Like, he's an FM radio guy. He doesn't know anything about sports." And I did. I knew enough about sports to talk about it, but I didn't feel like I was qualified, and I felt very insecure. So I would come home, and Hannah would be like, "Can you take the baby?" I'm like, "No, I'm watching Seton Hall basketball because we might have to talk about it tomorrow." All of a sudden, I realized something. I said, "Dude, just stop. Like, don't try to be Ben. Be you. Ben is Ben. Ben can do all the sports stuff. Be you." And the minute it clicked for me, I was like, "Okay, great." So we're getting a little traction. We'd been on the air. How long? When did he sign? We just had the anniversary. So it was like, dude, we hadn't been on the air long at all. Like, I mean, like a matter of weeks, right? And we're getting a few years. So the day Manny signs, everyone tunes in. We stayed on another hour. Like, we stopped at 10 and we decided to go to 11. And the flagship, who I now work for, they were done. They were into Jim Rome. Jim Rome, you're not cutting into him. So we stayed on the air and we took phone calls and we had this genuine excitement, and it changed everything. It changed. People then went, "Man, I like this show. I'm going to tune in, see what these guys say tomorrow. Man, I like how they do Padres talk." And then that was the day we became that show.
Wow.
That you had to tune. And then it was like, then the season started and it was like, "Oh my God, so-and-so got hit. I want to see what Ben and Woods have to say. So-and-so got in a fight. I want to see what Ben and Woods have to." And then we became that show. And I told Manny, like, we interviewed him over Christmas, and I said, "Dude, like, you changed my life. He changed our show." He really did. The day he signed here, our show went from like pretty good to, and then we saw that and we recognized it. We went, "Okay, now we got to give them what they want, and we got to give." And it's probably the day I turned into a psycho and really grabbed like most of the reins as far as like content went. I go, "Okay, this is now about to become a baseball town. Manny Machado's here. They're not effing around anymore. Fernando Tatis is coming up. Chris Paddock made the team. Like, okay, we're a baseball show," which is great because that's all we ever really wanted to be. But it was that day. It was that day. It all changed for us. And I owe that man. That's why I'll defend that guy to the death. Our lives changed immensely when he signed, immensely. And he changed the culture of that team and the city. And, legit superstar comes here to play baseball. Phenomenal.
Was that the same conversation with him when you had your son, Bo, say something to him?
Yeah. Bo has been, because his dad is just like me and my dad. I'm a huge Manny fan, and I love Tatis. I mean, you can't not love Tatis, but I'm a Manny guy. I grew up. Well, I watched Manny come up with the Orioles, and I watched him destroy the Yankees. I thought in my mind, I went, he's going to be a Yankee. They're going to sign him just so he stops destroying them. He was so good. He is so good. And so Bo, ever since he was born, he had a Manny shirt, and was one of the first words he said was, he used to call him Mimi. And I go, "Bo, who's that on TV?" And he go, Mimi. And so I had him say, like, "Happy New Year, Merry Christmas." So I recorded it and I played it for Manny when we had him on. I'm like, who knows how many more chances I'll get to do this. And Manny was super cool about it. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Well, Woodsy, you are awesome. Stephen Woods.
Thank you, man. So are you.
Appreciate it. Weekdays, 97.3 The Fan. Ben and Woods with Ben Higgins. They do a great job in San Diego, dominating the market. I'm Bryan Fenley, an anchor at Fox Sports Radio. Appreciate you, Steven. Appreciate your
Thank you,
work.
brother.
Thanks
Appreciate it.
for coming on, man. You're the best.